Ma'am, step out of the line. Elena Morales froze with one hand still on her carry-on handle. The airport officer wasn't looking at her anymore. He was looking at her passport like it had just accused her of something. My flight boards in 12 minutes, Elena said. He scanned it again, then he looked past her and nodded to another officer. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell for updates. Is there a problem? Yes, he said. This passport was reported stolen 3 hours ago. Elena let out a nervous laugh. That's impossible, it's mine. Passengers behind her shifted impatiently. Someone whispered. Another person raised a phone. The officer lowered his voice. You need to come with us. Inside a glass-walled security office, Elena watched people pass by and stare like she had done something criminal. She set her purse on the table with shaking hands. I don't understand, she said. Who reported it? The officer checked the screen, then looked up. Your husband filed the report personally. Elena's breath caught. Daniel had driven her to the airport less than an hour ago. He had kissed her cheek at the curb, handed her travel folder over and said, text me when you land. She called him immediately. Straight to voicemail. She called again. Nothing. The officer asked, are you and your husband involved in any legal dispute? No, Elena said too quickly. We're married, we're fine. But the word fine sounded thin in that room. All week, Daniel had been strange. He insisted on packing her suitcase himself. He kept asking what documents she was bringing. He got tense whenever she joked about staying in Barcelona longer. The officer said, until this report is cleared in person, you can't board. Elena opened the family location app. Daniel's phone disappeared from the map. She called his office. The receptionist hesitated. Daniel left suddenly this afternoon, he didn't say where. Then Elena noticed a missed voicemail from 30 minutes earlier. She played it. Static crackled, then Daniel's voice whispered, barely audible. Don't go home. Before Elena could speak, 2 airport police officers entered. One said, Ma'am, your husband's car was found abandoned downtown. Sophia kept both hands tight on the steering wheel as they pulled out of the airport parking garage. You should have let the police take you to a hotel, she said. Elena stared out the window. Daniel would never do something like this on purpose. Lena, he literally reported your passport stolen. He could be in trouble, maybe somebody forced him. Stop defending him for 5 seconds. The words hit harder because Sophia almost never raised her voice. Rain streaked across the windshield while Elena replayed the last few months in her head. Daniel insisting on handling every bill. Daniel asking why she needed separate savings. Daniel getting irritated whenever she wanted a night out with coworkers. At the time, she thought he was stressed. Now every memory felt rearranged. Sophia glanced at her. When was the last time you even saw your own bank statements? Elena didn't answer. And when you tried planning this trip by yourself, Sophia continued, he fought you on everything. He said he was worried. No, Sophia said quietly, he wanted control. By the time they reached Sophia's apartment, Elena's stomach was in knots. She unzipped her suitcase on the guest bed, trying to distract herself by reorganizing everything Daniel had packed. Then she stopped. That's not where I put this. What? Elena pulled back the lining inside the side compartment. A thick sealed envelope had been wedged underneath her sweaters. She frowned. I've never seen this before. Inside were pages of wire transfer records, international account numbers, corporate names she didn't recognize. Then she saw her own signature. Elena's face drained of color. That's forged, she whispered. More pages slid onto the bed. Offshore transfers, 6 figures, multiple shell companies. Sophia grabbed one sheet. Oh my God. Elena backed away from the bed like the papers might explode. No, Daniel works with investments. Maybe these are clients. Clients don't forge your signature. Elena immediately opened her tablet and tried logging into Daniel's office cloud account using the password they had shared for years. Access denied. She tried again. Password changed. Her chest tightened. Sophia grabbed her phone. You need a lawyer right now. Before Elena could answer, her phone buzzed with a text from Daniel. I can explain everything, don't talk to police. A second message appeared instantly from an unknown number. If Daniel contacts you again, cooperate with investigators. Someone knocked sharply at the apartment door. Sophia peeked through the peephole and stiffened. There are 2 detectives here. The older detective stepped inside as Elena slowly stood from the bed. Mrs. Morales, he said, eyeing the documents spread across the blanket, we need to ask what you know about the accounts opened in your name. By 9 the next morning, Elena was sitting inside a federal financial crimes office, with 3 investigators watching her through the glass walls. Nobody smiled at her. A woman carrying coffee slowed down just enough to stare before moving on. The detective from the apartment dropped a thick file onto the table. Your passport alert triggered a cross-match in an active investigation, he said. That's why this escalated so quickly. Elena looked exhausted. I told you already I don't know anything about offshore accounts. The detective opened the file. Several accounts were opened using your identity over the last 18 months. He slid documents toward her one at a time. Electronic signatures. Bank authorizations. Transfer approvals. Everyone carried her name. That's not me, Elena said. But the logins match your work schedule, another investigator replied. Most transfers were approved while you were clocked in at the hospital. Elena stared at him. I'm a pediatric nurse, I barely have time to eat lunch. One account also used your nursing license credentials. The room went silent. Her phone vibrated non-stop beside her, messages from co-workers, missed calls from unknown numbers. Then one text from hospital administration. Pending investigation, you are suspended effective immediately. Elena swallowed hard. The detective turned a monitor toward her. Grainy surveillance footage from inside a bank branch began playing. A woman wearing a beige coat signed paperwork at a desk. From behind, she looked almost exactly like Elena. Same dark hair, same build. Then Elena suddenly remembered Daniel cleaning out their closet 2 months earlier. You never wear these anymore, he'd said while boxing up old coats for donation. Her stomach twisted. He kept my clothes. The investigators exchanged a look. Then the older detective added another bombshell. Your husband liquidated multiple investment accounts yesterday morning. Elena grabbed her phone and opened the banking app. Nearly every account was empty. Joint savings. Emergency fund. Vacation account. Gone. She checked her wallet and tried one of her credit cards through the app. Cancelled. Another one. Cancelled too. He locked me out, she whispered. Not panicked anymore. Certain. Daniel hadn't made a mistake. He had planned this. The interrogation room door burst open before anyone could continue. Sophia hurried inside holding her phone. You need to see this right now. On screen, Daniel stood outside his office building surrounded by reporters and cameras. He looked calm. Professional. Controlled. My wife has been hiding serious financial issues from me for months, he told reporters. I contacted authorities as soon as I discovered irregularities. Elena stared at the screen in disbelief. Daniel looked directly into the cameras and continued speaking, while her entire life collapsed in real time. Daniel's interview played silently on the mounted television, while investigators questioned Elena for the 3rd straight hour. Every time she looked up, she saw her husband calmly destroying her life on live television. Online headlines crawled beneath his face. Nurse detained with stolen passport. Husband claims financial deception. One investigator closed a folder. Mrs. Morales, if your husband believed you were committing fraud, why report your passport stolen instead of contacting your employer first? Elena rubbed her temples. I don't know. But now the question bothered her too. None of Daniel's actions actually matched a frightened husband. They matched someone trying to stop her from leaving. Another agent entered the room holding paperwork. Her accounts are temporarily frozen pending review. Elena looked up sharply. All of them. I'm afraid so. Her checking account, savings, payroll deposits, everything locked. No access to money. No access to travel. No job to return to. She sat back slowly as pieces began sliding into place. Daniel insisting on packing her luggage himself. His panic whenever she mentioned extending the trip. The envelope hidden inside the side compartment. Then one memory hit her hard. That morning before the airport, Daniel had stopped her near the front door. You didn't open the zipper pocket, right? He'd asked suddenly. At the time she barely noticed it. Now her blood ran cold. He hid those papers in my suitcase, she said quietly. The room fell silent. The lead investigator immediately pulled the transfer records closer and started comparing account numbers. A minute later, he looked at another agent. This account is tied to the Mercer embezzlement case. The energy in the room shifted instantly. Another detective turned back toward Elena. Your timeline suddenly makes a lot more sense. Before Elena could respond, someone rushed into the office. We got traffic cam footage, the agent announced. Daniel abandoned the car downtown, then took a rideshare back to the house. Why go back? Elena asked. Nobody answered immediately. Then the lead investigator stood up fast. To destroy evidence. Within minutes the office exploded into movement. Calls, radios, agents grabbing jackets. Elena's phone buzzed in her hand. Home security alert, basement entry detected. She stared at it. That's impossible, she whispered. We never use the basement. One investigator grabbed her phone. Can you access the cameras? Elena nodded shakily and opened the security app. Live footage loaded onto the screen. Daniel stood in the basement beside a metal burn barrel. Stacks of papers disappeared into the flames. Hard drives smashed across the concrete floor. Go, 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 an agent shouted into his radio. Then Daniel suddenly stopped moving. Slowly he looked directly at the camera. For one terrifying second, Elena felt like he could see her watching him. Then he picked up something heavy and swung it straight into the lens. The screen shattered into black. Did police reach him before the evidence disappeared forever? Police reached the house less than 4 minutes after the camera feed cut out. Elena sat frozen inside the financial crimes office, while agents shouted updates across radios. Then finally, we have movement behind the property. Another voice crackled through the speaker. Suspect fleeing through alleyway carrying a duffel bag. Elena stood before anyone could stop her. The lead investigator held up a hand. Stay here. But she could already hear the chase through the open radio channel. Footsteps. Shouting. Then, suspect in custody. The room exhaled all at once. An investigator muted the radio and looked directly at Elena. We got him. She lowered herself slowly back into the chair, almost unable to process the words. Hours later, investigators showed her photographs recovered from the house. The basement was covered in ash, melted plastic and half-burned documents. Inside Daniel's duffel bag, officers found cash, multiple passports, encrypted hard drives, and account ledgers tied to fake consulting firms. One investigator spread the surviving records across the table. This is what he was hiding. The truth finally came out piece by piece. For years, Daniel had been laundering money through shell companies connected to wealthy clients under federal investigation. He used Elena's identity because she had something his business associates didn't. A spotless background. A licensed medical career. No criminal history. No reason for banks to question her name on international accounts. When Elena planned her Barcelona trip, Daniel saw an opportunity. He packed financial documents into her suitcase, intending for a contact overseas to retrieve them after she arrived. But sometime before leaving for the airport, he realized one envelope remained inside the side compartment where Elena could accidentally find it. That was when he panicked. Reporting the passport stolen accomplished two things at once. It stopped Elena from boarding, and it bought him time to destroy evidence at home. Even the abandoned car had been staged to delay investigators and make it look like something had happened to him. He was trying to save himself, Elena said quietly. The investigator nodded, at your expense. Digital forensic teams later confirmed Daniel forged Elena's signatures using copied biometric data pulled from shared financial records and tax filings. By the end of the week, authorities publicly cleared Elena of wrongdoing. The same news stations that aired Daniel's accusations now ran stories about identity fraud and financial manipulation. At the hospital, co-workers who avoided her earlier suddenly acted sympathetic. One nurse awkwardly said, "We didn't know what to believe." Elena simply replied, "I know." Federal agents seized the house 2 days later. Most of the accounts Daniel controlled were frozen immediately, leaving almost nothing untouched financially. Sophia helped Elena pack what little truly belonged to her into cardboard boxes, while agents catalogued evidence room by room. The hardest moment came during her single visit to Daniel at county jail. He sat behind the glass looking exhausted for the first time since all of this began. "I stopped you from getting arrested overseas," he said. "You don't understand how bad this could have gotten." Elena stared at him through the receiver. Even now, he framed himself as the one protecting her. "You used me," she said. Daniel looked away. Not denying it. Not apologizing. Just silent. The divorce proceedings started the following month. Elena walked away with very little money, but for the first time in years, every decision belonged entirely to her. Months later, she returned to the airport carrying a new passport in her own hand. No one packed her suitcase for her. No one checked where she was going. At security, the officer scanned her passport. Elena held her breath for half a second. Then he smiled and handed it back. "You're all set, safe travels." She took the passport, walked toward her gate and never looked back. The last thing Daniel ever took from her was her fear of leaving.